Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are starting the second chapter in a very long journey because today we are here to talk about Twilight Zone, the classic original Twilight Zone show. This is Season 2, Episode 1. It's called King 9 Will Not Return. So this is our first episode of Season 2. I actually had forgotten we'd moved on to a new season because I went to sit down to watch the episodes and I sat down, my Season 1 Blu-ray, like the final disc was still on the player, and then I went, oh wait, we're on Season 2, I have to go get the second box. I know. So I did not remember.
Have you opened it before, or did you have to take off the saran wrap?
No, I was on before. Well, I've got a bad habit. It's like, no matter, even if I'm not going to watch something for a long time, I always take the wrap off when I get it, because it's like part of opening it. It's like, yo, I got a thing. I must open.
Now I cannot return it. It is mine forever.
It's a commitment. I'm making a commitment to the thing I've made, the purchase I've made.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get into the episode, of course. Spoilers for the episode as always. So one thing I didn't remember, because there's a sticker on the cover that reminded me of this, is that this season's actually slightly shorter than Season 1. It does go back to 36, I believe, for Season 3, but this season is 29 episodes. So.
Phew! What a break.
Yeah, no, a little bit shorter. And then something that I don't know if I mentioned before, but I'm going to mention it now. I'll mention it again when we get to the relevant episodes, but I think it's important here for anyone who's watching this now, especially since we're all watching the nice HD transfers and it looks like a really great restoration, looks very pretty, even though it's this old black and white show. There is 6 episodes in Season 2 that were shot on very... what's the word I'm looking for here? Early version of something that's not that great yet. Primitive. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Tara, for your help.
My pleasure.
There was 6 episodes this season that were shot on primitive videotape, and I say primitive because it's 1960. So there's 6 episodes in this season. I think a handful of episodes in, it's going to switch to the videotape episodes, and they're going to look considerably worse than the rest of the episodes that we've done so far.
Ooh, can't wait.
And then it'll get back to better. They did this for budget reasons. They were trying to save money, and I think they basically stopped because it didn't save them as much money as they thought they were. I've not looked into it too extensively. I'm sure you can go on Wikipedia this and read up on what the decision-making process was here. But for that reason, 6 of these episodes look kind of rough versus the rest. But this episode is not one of those. Episode 1 here. We do have the classic...
This one looks pretty good.
We have the classic theme tune that we all know from Twilight Zone finally makes its appearance here. Although, notably, because we got the new opening titles at the end of the season last season, and the style of the opening titles is the same, and the bar kind of scrolls in from the side and the title comes up, but it's not the eye that was at the end of the season last season. It's it's this the planet, it's the moon or whatever, and then space. It is a little bit different again. So, just thought I'll point that out.
And we get Rod Serling in the opening narration.
We always did.
Is that just for this episode?
What do you mean? We always had that.
Yeah, but we don't see him.
We didn't see him in this either, did we?
Yeah, we did.
At the start?
I'm sure we did.
I don't remember this.
Maybe I dreamt it.
I do not recall seeing Rod Serling at the start of this episode. I mean, if I am wrong and I have forgotten something as silly as this, then you may rub it in next episode. You can give me shit for it.
I guess I could watch it again.
Yeah.
It's not like it's that much of a commitment.
Well, you don't have to watch the whole thing. You just have to watch the first minute.
That's not how I watch things.
Okay, fine.
I commit.
You commit. All right. Like I do with my Blu-rays. I always take the wrapper off.
Yeah, Rod Serling was in the opening narration. He's there in the desert next to the airplane. Boom.
I don't remember. You know what? I'm so used to seeing him at the end of the episodes that it never even clicked in my brain that he was there at the start. I thought the episode was ending. I thought we were just wrapping up, and I thought, this is a short episode.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about King 9 Will Not Return, which is about a captain of a fighter plane from World War II who wakes up in the desert, and he is confused as to why there's no one else around. As his crew don't even seem to be lying near him, or even dead. Like there's not around. The ship is empty.
Are you saying he's all by himself?
It is kind of interesting how season 1 started with, you know, the where is everybody, the episode, and it was all about someone being on their own. And then this kind of did the same thing again, except instead of having a full town for him to explore and find clues, he was just at a single plane crash site that had nothing in the surrounding area for miles. Which leads me to, usually I ask you first, but I'm just going to jump in here and say this was a really mediocre episode because it did not have enough things to fill the 25-minute runtime with.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's
Excellent,
okay.
excellent news. We're in the cozy part of the Venn
Our Venn
diagram.
diagram has crossed again.
Yes, because like obviously, and I think it hurts that we've also done this idea before better, to the point where as I was watching the episode and he's waking up and he's like, okay, so where are my crew members? And eventually he kind of hallucinates a little bit and that kind of thing. I was kind of thinking to myself, like, okay, well, there's going to be a twist here, right? And the obvious twist is that he's actually dead, and the reason why he can't find anyone is because one of the first things he says at the start is, that's strange, like my crew, if they're okay, if they're alive, they wouldn't leave me behind. Even if they couldn't wake me up, they'd carry me, kind of thing. So I immediately said, well, they wouldn't if you were dead, though. Like, that would just be, they'd have to leave you behind. But to the episode's credit, he does actually ponder that himself. Once he starts getting a bit more delirious, he does actually go through a lot of ideas in his head. He's like, am I actually dead? Am I hallucinating? Am I all these things? And
he basically goes through every twist that we've seen in season 1.
Yeah, and the funny thing is,
these isolation episodes,
is that somehow the actual twist at the end of the episode is less interesting than almost all of them.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know if I can say that this is kind of a cliche ending because it hasn't been done before. I don't know.
In 1960,
I mean, from the time when it was aired.
So you're saying that It's All a Dream is more valid in 1960.
Yeah, the St. Elsewhere ending is a little, although they do add something to it that makes it doesn't seem as cheap.
I don't know. I think it makes it feel worse, but we'll get to that. We get to it.
Right. So yeah, it's mediocre. Like you said, it's just the payoff isn't quite as good.
Even if the payoff was good,
other episodes we've seen that are similar.
But this is the thing, though. Even if the payoff was good, even if I liked what it did with the twist, and it was like, okay, that's kind of a cool idea, I don't think the first 20 minutes of the episode, I don't think it makes up for that, because the first 20 minutes,
it's too redundant. It's just a guy in the desert with the plane. That's the only prop. Like you said, we don't have that city or the different buildings. There's no mannequins in this episode.
Yeah, and because that first episode last season told a story, and there were so many clues. Like once the reveal happened, I could look back at that story and go, "Hey, here's where the hints came from. This is where things came from in his mind."
Yeah, it made it kind of rewatchable.
Yeah, whereas this one, there's nothing for him to do except just kind of wonder where everyone is. And the first few minutes of the episode, he's literally just going around the plane, and every so often he stops and just kind of looks around a little bit, and his narration will start asking questions. And it does that a lot, and honestly, it's just kind of hard to get. And I was waiting for another character or something to be introduced that would, okay, now we can bounce off of this, or that this is what advances the story. And I think, just to...
I don't hate the build-up. Like, the build-up it's really slow, but it's not terrible.
But I think what makes my point, though, about how it has nothing to really do is, you know how it goes to the ad break, right? Even when you're watching the modern versions, it always has where the title card comes in for the ad break. When it goes to the ad break, it felt like such a nothing moment. Normally they have a little cliffhanger. They have that's the moment where the character realizes the predicament they're in. That's the moment where they realize something, or a twist happens, or whatever. This one, it goes to the ad break and him just sort of sitting down and going, "Where's my crew? I was meant to protect them.
Yeah,
I was meant to protect them."
Same.
Yeah, it's more of the same. And then we come back after the ad break for yet more of the same. The only interesting part, honestly, in the whole thing, whilst we're in the desert with him, is that he eventually kind of finds the graves, presumably of his crew, which does lead to the question of, okay, who buried them then, and who did this? So. I mean, maybe it's only one of them that he finds rather than all three crew members, but regardless, that is the most interesting thing, because he finds something new. It's like, oh, something that we can maybe use here. It doesn't really, to be honest. It just kind of monologues a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I like the twist that happens at the end. I mean, not like the big twist, but the little added on bit that makes it not so cliche. I think that really helps the episode. But for the most part, it's just too redundant. Like it's the same thing over and over again for, like you said, 20 plus minutes. And I think this theme of isolation has been done so many times. It's confusing why they would open up season 2 with the same theme. And maybe because it was so similar to the pilot episode of the first, they thought, well, we can do that story again, but different.
I wonder.
And
it's
very unsuccessful. I think it's probably just they had an airplane prop, and so they made an episode around it.
They had an airplane prop from a different TV show or a movie that they'd just done or something. Although I wonder actually, like, we used to sit there, you wonder why they'd open season two like that. I do wonder though how much they cared about the idea of like season breaks at the time, because I feel like talking about season openers and and finales and things like that, I feel like that's a more modern thing. And I don't know if
maybe, but the finale for season 1 seemed like a big deal. They had Rod Serling as like a character in it.
That's true. Like, I don't know how much, like, in 1960 it was like, oh, the season premiere of, like, did they really hype it up as like it's back after its break kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess
they probably did.
I mean, Star Trek never really did that in the early seasons.
Were you around when they were advertising the new seasons of Star Trek in 1967?
We've agreed never to discuss my true age. Ooh, I went Scottish there. Never to
discuss my age.
Been hanging out too much.
Discuss. I don't say discuss.
Yes.
You shot past me and went straight to Sean Connery.
Yeah. My dentures just came out, and that's all. Not my real teeth. I'm secretly 75.
We'll meet tomorrow at 10ish. 10ish? I don't even have a racket. Sorry, that was a really bad Sean Connery joke. So yeah, the big twist then is that eventually, and again, there's not really much to kind of propel it. Eventually, he's just sort of grasping at the sand, and it transitions to him grasping at a bed sheet, and he's in bed in a hospital, and we have like a doctor and another doctor, I don't know, like standing over him, and they basically just spell out the backstory for us and what's happened here, which again makes it very dull storytelling. They just tell us, like, we don't see any of this. They just explain to us what the symbolism of everything in the dream was. It's like, oh yes, well, he saw this in the newspaper and collapsed, and we see in the newspaper, oh, they found this plane that's been missing for 20 years. Keep in mind it's 1960, so it's only been less than 20 years since World War II ended.
Right.
And
yeah.
So, and it's like, yeah, he was meant to go out on this flight with his crew, but for some reason he was kept back on this. So immediately we go, okay, so it's his guilt. He felt he was meant to be with his crew and he wasn't there.
Everybody died on the mission.
Yes.
So, I mean, he does have some guilt, like maybe I could have been there and done something. So at least like maybe him seeing this newspaper would trigger some kind of trauma, and that memory would be there for that reason. And yeah. I think that's okay.
It's an okay idea. I think the execution's horrible. I don't think
it's a little bit better than just it was all a dream. I mean, it's still all the dream, but at least it has a reason for being there.
I mean, it is all a dream, though, right? I mean, because you said you liked the final little bit because he wakes up and he talks to him a little bit and he's a little bit confused, and they sort of, no, you just went there on your mind. You weren't actually there. You're in a hospital bed. You'll be fine. And there's like, oh, a couple of days, you'll know that was fake and whatever. And then the final moment is that the nurse brings like all his belongings, his clothes that he was wearing. And when they pick up his shoe, some sand falls out of it, and like it's sand, and it's like, yeah. I think this is cheap and tacked on. I don't feel like there's any like reason for this.
Yeah, that part I don't really care about. Like,
yeah.
Okay, I guess it makes it more Twilight Zone-y.
But yeah, if I'll be honest, do you know what that's made me think of?
His dream dimension is the fifth dimension or whatever.
I'm going to be honest here. Do you know what this made me think of? This made me think of Twilight Zone 2019. This episode.
Oh.
Yeah, it did.
Get muddled.
Because it just gets muddled.
Like, we have a message. Just kidding. Now it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I felt at the end of this episode. Because the whole sand in the shoe, I'm like, oh, so they're implying that he was somehow really there and came back, or like, but even like, why would his physical shoe have sand in it? Because he wasn't even wearing those clothes when he was in the the dream. I don't know, none of it really makes any sense, and it feels like it's just there because they realize this isn't exciting enough. We have to give it a nice little bit at the end so we can go da na 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 na. Right, that's it. They just want that, and it makes no sense.
I see that. That's not a part of the episode that I cared about, even though it was supposed to be a big dun dun moment at the end. But it's like, whatever. The rest of it is fine.
It's just dull. It's dull. It's redoing things that we've seen before, and ultimately just plods around repeating itself too often. And then the twist, well, I think the idea of why he's having this trauma is fine. I just think it's just, we're just told this by a character, and it's like, okay. But there was no clues really in the thing. I mean, okay, sure, there was him...
Well, the jets went by. That was kind of an interesting, wonder why those are there. But
I suppose, yeah, that's the one indication that he's really there somehow. Is that there's like modern jets.
Like, why do I know what those are? It's 1943.
Yeah, if anything, at that point, I was thinking if they've done like a time travel thing again. Is this like the pilot from season 1 who's traveled forward in time?
That kind of mixed things up a bit. That was good.
Yeah, it was an okay moment. But yeah, I just, so much of it was just him, like, you know, talking about his crew and saying that he's meant to protect them, and I don't know, it wasn't propelling itself forward. There was no momentum to it.
Yeah.
So
just okay. I don't hate it, but it was just okay.
Yeah, I know I sound like I hate it. I don't hate it, but you have this inherent
It's not like the monsters that do from on Maple Street for you. That was
shut up. Don't get me in trouble again. No. I think you inherently, when you think something's just okay, tend to try and stick up for it when I'm pointing out why it's just okay, and then I come across as being really hateful about it. But I'm just trying to make it. I'm trying to make it clear.
I'm just trying to be the good cop to your bad cop.
Yes. So you end up making me look worse, is what I'm saying.
Do I though?
Yes, you do.
All right. Yeah, maybe I did.
So. It's a shame that season 2 starts off with a bit of a stinker. It's not a terrible episode, but compared to the good stuff, it's a stinker. You know, it's like...
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not one of the memorable episodes, and it repeats a theme that we've already seen better, so it's not the best opener, for sure.
I will say this, though. I was just glancing at what was coming up on Disc 1. There's a great episode that I do remember very well coming up on Disc 1.
Okay. Well, we have that to look forward to.
Yeah, so there's some gold coming soon. So not to despair, not to think that the show is in a bit of a slump, because there's good stuff coming. Now, admittedly, the next one will be good, because at the end of this episode, Rod Serling comes out and tells us about a genie. The episode's called The Man in the Bottle.
Don't know this one.
I don't remember off the top of my head either. Although there's a image from this episode that I always remember. I think it's because it's on the back of the cover of the Blu-ray, so I've just seen this image a bunch. But here's a description from IMDb. A luckless couple stumbles upon a fortune when a genie materializes from a bottle in their antique shop. The genie grants them 4 wishes. 4, that's an interesting number. It's usually 3. But warns them prophetically to be careful what you wish for.
Oh.
So, Monkey's Paw. It's a Monkey's Paw episode.
Yeah, sounds like a 2000s horror film.
It does a little bit, actually. Yeah. Or 2000s. Try just a couple of years ago with a film called Wish Upon. You can check out the review of that on Screams After Midnight or Horror Movie Podcast with myself and Tim.
Do I have to watch the movie first? Because sounds like I don't want to.
You don't have to. I feel like a lot of the bad movies we review are better just experienced through our descriptions.
Okay. Yeah, check it out.
Yes, go check it out. But yeah, so that's what's coming up next time on Twilight Zone. But this was The King 9 Will Not Return. Little note here, maybe you'll know better than I do. I did think it was because the plane's called The King 9. It's got like a king on it, and it's, you know, got the big K9 on it. There was also 3 swastikas next to some bullets, which I thought was kind of curious. Now, I'm assuming that the point of that is that they're saying they're going to shoot down Nazis.
I think it's keeping track of what they've shot down.
Ah, okay. I just thought it just feels weird to me to put that on anything. Like,
yeah,
you know, I was like, whoa, why is that on there?
I mean, well, if it's accurate to the time, it's probably wasn't a big deal.
Oh, sure, but it was making me think the twist was going to be like he's not actually he's not on the side he thinks he is or something like that. It was making me think for a second there was going to be some twist about.
I think it's a kill counter. But I
Yeah.
don't know. The swastikas probably mean something other than the bullets, but
Sure.
I don't really know what they would mean.
Yeah, it's never brought up, so I'm assuming it's just a cultural thing at the time that I just don't get, and that's okay. But it stuck out to me when I noticed it. I was like, wait, why is the swastikas on that plane? He's not meant to be. He's not from Germany. What's going on?
Yeah.
But hey. So there you go. That has been episode 1 of season 2. The King 9 will not return. So let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments. You can like and subscribe. You can ding the bell on YouTube to make sure you get notifications. You can support what we do by rating the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, maybe a little review. It helps more people find us in the interwebs. You can also support us financially, of course. Tara, how can they do that?
You can check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MileFuzzTV. Donating as low as $1 per month will get you bonus features, such as some tangents that we do on all of the shows now get edited out for time and added to our patrons. So
Not every tangent, only the sizable ones. Because as you're saying that, I'm pretty sure we started this very episode with a small tangent, and they're going to be like, no, you didn't edit that one out. That one's still there.
Well, we had plenty of time to talk about that.
Sure.
It's a bit of a shorter review.
Yeah.
So yeah, check it out.
Yeah, check it out. You know what's funny, Tara, is that I've noticed over time that you, much like I do with my intros and some of my outro stuff, you have a very set way that you say that Patreon bit now. You say it with the exact same inflection every time. You've got it's like a little thing you've rehearsed almost.
Should I jazz it up a bit?
You don't have to. I mean, I don't jazz mine up too much, but it's there if you want to. If you want to be a bit adventurous.
Jazzy.
Go to Patreon.
Ooh, pull out my Goldblum. Start purring. Ooh, check out patreon.com. Not very Goldblum. I can't do the Goldblum.
I can't.
There's only one.
I can't do it either. But hey, that is us. That has been our Twilight Zone discussion. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. And that is it. Yeah. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys, in the Twilight Zone.